Well, howdy, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. I got a call from a client today and says they need a virtual machine post haste pronto and quickly. So that's what this video is about. Let's get it started right now. Yeah, so I got a call from a client, and they said, "Hey, I got a guy that works for me up in Colorado, and I've got a piece of software I want to put on a virtual machine so he can remote in and work on that." So I said, "Okay, we can do that." And then I got to thinking, they're running. This is an older client. I've had them nearly 10 years. They're running Server 2012 R2. And most of what I've shown you with virtual machines is on Windows Server 2019. So I thought this would make a good video. So let me show you how we do it on Windows Server 2012 R2. So I'm remotely connected to the customer's Windows Server 2012 R2. And yeah, they should probably update to Windows Server 2019. It hasn't been a priority. Now this is a simple one-use super micro server. They've already got a few VMs running on it, and it only has an Intel Xeon E3 1220 version 3 processor and 32 gig of RAM. But it does have fast SSD storage, where it says VM store right here. And I've created an image for them a long time ago on Windows 10 1909 Sysprep, but as you know, we're up to Windows 10 2004. So when I go to create this virtual machine, I'm going to need to create it from scratch, and we'll create another export. But we have enough free space here, I believe. Let's see what's on there. Yeah, we have 284 of 687 gig free. So we should be good to create a virtual machine on here. Let's just go and see how many. Yeah, we have 336 gig in virtual hard drives. Again, this is only Windows Server 2012 R2, so I'm going to come into HyperV Manager. And you can see I've got, this is a Windows 7 virtual machine. This is a Windows 10. This is another Windows 10 virtual machine and another Windows 10 virtual machine. So what I'm going to do is create a new one. So I'm just going to come over here to New Virtual Machine. And I'm going to follow the little wizard here. So we're going to call this, call it ATE-VM-004. And we're just going to accept the default location to store the virtual machine. Click on Next. Now, I have two choices here. If you want your life to be easy and you want to be able to take virtual machines between different hypervisors, pick Gen 1. Because once you pick Gen 2, you're kind of stuck with HyperV. It's really difficult to convert a Gen 2 HyperV image to run on VMware or XCP-ng or so forth. So we won't be doing that, so I'm just going to choose Gen 2. Click on Next. I'm going to give it 4 gig of RAM. I'm not going to use dynamic memory. We're going to connect to our LAN connection. Click on Next. And we're going to give it a 127 gig dynamically expanding hard drive. We can increase the size of this hard drive later if we need to. And click on Next. We're going to also install an operating system later. This is the preferred method I use to create a virtual machine. Click on Next, and then look at your summary, and then click on Finish. And then it'll go and it'll create the virtual machine. Now I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and go to Settings. So some of the things I want to do is I want to give it 4 virtual CPUs, first of all. And then we're going to come here to hard drive, and we're going to SCSI, and we're going to add a DVD drive. So pick the SCSI controller over here, come over on the right, choose DVD drive, and then add. And then I'm going to attach that to that image file under the ISO folder, the Windows 10 Pro 2004. Click on Open. And then come back up here to, or click on Apply. Come back up here to Firmware and disable Secure Boot And make sure you take your DVD drive and move it up to the top, and your hard drive is secondary. If you don't do this, you're going to have issues with your virtual machine. And secure boot, you can look into that yourself. I never use it. So I'm going to click on apply and then OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and right click on it and choose connect. And now we're going to get ready to boot it up for the first time. So click on your power button. Now what I'm going to do is install Windows 10 2004, get all the updates done, and then I'm going to sysprep it and create a virtual or a gold image off of it. All right, so we're going to go through our normal Windows setup. You all know how to do this, but I'll just take you along for the ride, and we'll change. You notice I've got the virtual machine name wrong. I need to change that to VM10-004. So we're going to install Windows 10 Pro. Click on Next. Accept the license terms. Click on Next. Do a custom install. We're going to install it onto the 127 gig hard drive, and we'll let it run. So go ahead, we'll get it installed and see what happens at the end. So we have the initial install done. We've just created the user for this machine. I just want to give you a feel for the speed of virtual machines, even on an operating system as old as Server 2012 R2. And, you know, a lot of people would say, hey, Joe, you need to upgrade this client to Server 2019. Well, no, not till the end of life 2012, because, you know, it's a $600-700 upgrade to go from that to Server 2019. And, you know, my motto, if it ain't broke, I'm not going to fix it. This operating system has served this client well for several years. I just wanted to give you a feel for how long it takes to come up to the login screen and the kind of impact it has on system resources when you have other virtual machines running in the background. And you'll see that most of the CPU activity is done when you're doing your initial setup of an operating system, that kind of thing, and files are being transferred over and whatnot. But once it gets up to the desktop, you'll see that as you can see, the CPU usage is going down quite a bit, quite precipitously. Now the next thing to do is we need to set up our time zone correctly. So I'll just right click here and adjust date and time. And we'll make sure it's set for Central Time. And then, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to do all the Windows updates. So I haven't activated the software yet, but we will go ahead and you can go ahead and do the updates. The only thing you really can't do without activating the software is customize the desktop experience. So I always get it installed and get all my updates done, and then I'm going to show you how we sysprep the image. We'll back up the sysprepped image, and then we will back it up, get rid of the virtual machine, and then we will restore from that sysprepped image into our actual new virtual machine. I know it's a lot of steps, but I need to create a new image for this client. It's been months and months since I did one. And no, we're not going to do feature update to Windows 10 20H2, not yet. But we'll get all these updates done, then we'll come back. So I just wanted you to see something. I always forget to mention this on the task manager. This is a client. Look at the uptime. 248 days, 14 hours, 43 minutes, and 5 seconds. So for those of you that don't like Windows or Windows Server, say you have to reboot it all the time, you're full of crap. So now that we've got all of our updates done, as you can see here, we can go ahead and sysprep this image. So again, don't be too concerned about what it says up here. We can change that on the fly. So what we need to do, now we're at Windows 10 1909. We just double check that with, 24 or 2000. Yeah, 2004. We can do that by going down and typing WinVer. And you can see it's version 2004, 1904, 1.630. So we're current. So the next thing we want to do is go into File Explorer. And yeah, be patient, Joe. Go to this PC, go to the C drive, go to Windows. I believe it's System 32. And there should be a Sysprep folder under here. Sysprep. And we're going to double click on Sysprep. Now we want it to enter the out-of-box experience, generalize it, so that'll, if we, for example, we move this to a different hypervisor, or we move it to another Windows machine running HyperV, but it has different processors and RAM and that kind of thing. That's why you want to choose generalize. The same thing if you're creating this image for physical hardware, you want to generalize it. Now the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to shut down after it's run Sysprep so that it's ready to go. So once you got these settings set, just click on OK. Give it some time. It's going to take a little time to Sysprep the image. We'll know it's done when it shuts down the virtual machine. And then what this allows you to do then is you've now created what's called a gold standard image. I could have also installed Office 365 on here or any other applications I want to have as part of this image. But I just want to have, I just want to be able to go up there and spin up a Windows 10 VM, because on the fly, not all of these machines are going to have the same software on there, so it doesn't behoove me to go out there and create an image with software on it that I might have to just remove later. So your situation is going to vary. If you've just got a bunch of Windows 10 virtual machines or machines you need to create with Office 365, then go ahead and load Office 365 on it and then create your master image. If you've got a bunch of machines with Adobe or AutoCAD or something similar to that, go ahead and create those with that software installed. It'll just make your life a whole lot easier. Now, normally when I run Sysprep, this process takes less than 10 minutes. Usually it's less than 5. So we'll just leave this up here and I'll try to be quiet, not babble on about something. All right, so now the machine is shut off. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this. So I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go to settings. And the first thing I'm going to do is come down here and call this W10 2004 Gold. And I ought to put a P after that so we know it's Pro. So and then we'll put a description here, Windows 10 Pro version 2004 Gold image. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to eject I'm going to come here to the DVD, I'm going to eject that, I'm going to tell it there's none. Then the other thing I'm going to do is come here and I'm going to rename this, the actual hard drive image file. So we'll call this WTP 2004-Gold. Enter. And then we need to double click on that so it'll open that. It'll know that image belongs there. So now that I've got the gold image created, what I want to do is export this. And exporting is simply going to make a copy of this image and it's going to move it to a different location so that you could do an import on it. It's similar to like cloning a virtual machine. But now that we've got our master image created, we'll right click on it and we'll go to export. And now I'm going to browse to my export folder here, which is on VM Store 1 export. I'm going to select that folder, click on export. And this will take a little bit of time because it's got to make a copy of the virtual machine file. It's got to make a copy of the virtual hard drive, package it into a nice little package, and then move it onto that drive. So as we're exporting this file, you can see it takes a little bit of CPU processes because it's copying files and moving them around. You notice our memory usage has gone down. We only have 32 gig of RAM on this machine, but we're good. We're only, even with the other virtual machine up and running, with the 4th or 5th virtual machine up and running, it's only consuming about 22 gigabytes of RAM. So we got a little buffer, we got a little headroom yet. I don't know that I'd want to run many more virtual machines on this unit, because if they started actually using the VMs a little more intensely than they are now, basically these folks just edit Word documents in Excel, or they do a little bit of Adobe PDF editing. They're not trying to run AutoCAD or anything like that on these VMs. They're just not suited to that. So this will probably take as long as it did to Sysprep. And then once it's done, in fact, I'll go ahead and open File Explorer now, and we'll go out to that VM store exports directory, and you can see it's created the folder there, and it's exporting our virtual machine file. And let's go look at the 1909 one. You see it has snapshots, virtual hard drives. So there's the virtual hard drive image, and here's the virtual machine XML file. And snapshots should be empty. There are no snapshots on these machines. So once we're done, we'll just verify we've got the same information here for Windows 10 Pro 2004 Gold. Okay, so it took about 3 or 4 minutes. So let's just go under here. We should have no snapshots. Nope. We should have no virtual hard drives. Nope. And no virtual, and I'm sorry. We should have a VHD file for the virtual hard drive, and we should have an XML file for the virtual machine file. So we're all good. So now what we can do is come up here, right click, and we can choose to delete that machine. Now be aware though, when HyperV deletes a machine, if we come back here to our HyperV folder, the virtual machine has been deleted, but the virtual hard drive has not. And it's the same way on Windows Server 2019. I guess they, just in case, they want to leave you an option to recover an image file if you delete a virtual machine by mistake. So I don't know whether that's something that Microsoft has designed into the system, but we're going to go ahead and delete this file from our VHD. So do that with care, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and empty the recycle bin here to get rid of our final image. So now we can create a new virtual machine from our gold image. We're going to do that next. All right, so now that we have that machine exported, now we can go ahead and import it and create a new virtual machine from it. So we're going to come over here, click on Import Virtual Machine, click on Next. We're going to browse to that D drive where we created the export, and there's our Windows 10 Pro 2004 Gold. Select that folder. Should look just like that. Click on Next. It tells us the date and time it was created. Click on Next. And make sure you copy the virtual machine ID or create a new, copy the virtual machine and create a new unique ID. If not, you could have some problems with that later. You don't want to have both VMs having the same user ID or unique ID. Click on Next. It's going to ask you where you want to restore it. We'll just restore it to the defaults. Click on Next. Now, if you did want to restore that to a different location, shared storage or whatever, you could do that as well. Click on Next. And it wants to know where you want to store the virtual hard disk for the virtual machine. So VHD on the D drive is where we want to store it. Click on Next. Review the summary. There's where it's going to restore it to. Click on Finish. And go find something to do, depending on where you have exported that machine to, for about 5 or 10 minutes. And give it some time to restore or import the file. All right, so we've got the machine imported. Let's go ahead and rename it now. So we'll right-click on it, go to Settings. First thing we're going to do is rename it to ATE VM10-004. Windows 10 Pro version 2004. Get rid of that. And we'll come down here and we're going to rename the virtual hard drive as well. So we'll right click on it, choose rename ATE VM10-004. Okay, we'll select it and then choose open and apply. And now we should be able to right click on it and connect and go ahead and fire it up. And it should come up in Sysprep mode and run us through the setup again. Let's bring up Task Manager to see how it's responding. Here we go, it's booting up. So it took about 5 minutes to come up to this screen. So you know what we need to do here. We'll go through the setup, get our user set up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll join it to the domain, and I'll show you how to do that. So the machine is now up and running, and looks like we're good to go. Let's just go take a look real quick. Oh, we need to name this machine. So now that it's up and running from Sysprep, we'll right click on this PC, go to Properties, and yeah, it's got the wrong name, so we want to change that. So change settings, come here to the change button, and where you enter the name is here, ATE-VM10-004. And we won't join the domain just yet. We'll go ahead and rename it because we're going to need a reboot. This is just an old habit I've gotten into over the years. Rename it, reboot it, join the domain, reboot it, just to be sure. So that reboot is complete. So now let's go ahead and join it to the domain. Going to right click on this PC, go to Properties once again. And you see now our machine name is correct. So let's join it to the network. And I believe that's going to be ate.local is the name of this network. And then we'll be prompted for our user administrator and name and password. And our super secret password in here. Click on OK, and if all is well, it should join this machine to the domain, and it does. So now this machine will inherit all the permissions that we've set up in group policies under Windows Server Active Directory under the domain controller, using domain policies. So there you go. That's how easy it is to get a machine, to create a virtual machine, to make a cold image and sysprep it, and then back up and restore it. Now let's just make sure we can log in. And you can see, for being a virtual machine, it is fairly speedy for what we're going to want it for. Now you could also put up in here under the username ATE /, but you see it's going to sign into ATE automatically. So once I log in, the group policy should then take over it. It'll have to do some setup work initially, set up my desktop, but then we'll be able to go and see if the drive mappings are there, and that'll be a good indicator that we have joined it to the domain and everything is working properly. So we'll give it a couple of minutes for that to set up. And then I can go set up users on the machine. I can set up software, whatever I need to do, just like it were a physical machine in any other circumstance. And really, with HyperV, it's very easy to do Linux machines as well, because the HyperV drivers are built right into the Linux kernel now, or into most variations of Linux. So let's go ahead and open File Explorer, and we should see a bunch of new drive letters appear. Yeah, we got P, H, O, Q, P, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and V. And our machine is now set up and is logged into the domain. We can verify that by coming to this PC in Properties, and you'll see we are a member of the ate.local domain. So now I can carry on with all the other programs I need to load on there. So there you go. Not much different than the way we did it on Windows Server 2019. It's basically the same thing, just a newer version. I went ahead and created a gold image because this client does, they've been so busy here lately they've got a government contract. so they've been getting more and more work, and they're constantly having to bring in staff from outside to help fulfill specific needs. So I thought, well, we'll just go ahead and create a gold image for them. Normally in a client this small, you really don't need to create a master image, but it does make my life easier. So if the client calls me, in the next day or two and says, hey, I need another virtual machine, I can spin it up in about 10 or 15 minutes as opposed to having to sit around and wait for it to go through the install. So it's probably not a bad idea that I created that gold master image. So yeah, there you go. Done and done. Now, I've got another video coming up on creating virtual machines under VMware. And it's not much different than doing it under Windows, but the way we export or clone the machine is a little bit differently. So, like I said, I'll have that video coming up here within the next week or two. And I'll share with you some of the problems I ran into on using VMware to create a virtual machine. I'm still a big fan of HyperV, always will be. Just for me, it's really easy. So anyway, we hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, give us a thumbs up down below if you like the video. Leave your comments down in the comments section. Donate if you're so inclined. We take PayPal. We take Patreon. Make sure you come back and see us again. And please don't forget, we'll see you on the other side.